You're welcome. Okay, getting ready for the next session. Good afternoon out there. Thanks for joining. Please help us to see your particular city that you're joining in from. We're going to kick off right away. It's going to be fire, 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 fire. Thanks for joining. We're going to have Fela Durotoye joining in any moment from now.
Hey, bro.
How do you greet each
other? Now, like, we can hug from here. We can
hug. Yes.
Hey, man of God.
Yeah. Okay.
How are you, sir?
We're fine.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining in, everyone. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. The last session was awesome. We had people joining in from Italy, Ukraine, Canada, Malaysia, Abakaliki, Mowe, Benin City. You are welcome. This session is going to be fire. Oh. God will help us. Oh. Okay. We have Fela Durotoye in the house. Okay. He's a renowned management consultant and an executive leadership coach for almost 30 years. I think it's an aspect that people need to really focus on, especially this season. Things are changing all over the world in terms of businesses, career pathways. People need new ideas. They need a lot of shifts in the way they think, in like what we call paradigm shifts. So many other things. So I want us to do a lot of focus on that in this particular session. He's loaded. He has a lot of experience, almost 30 years, I said earlier. Of course, he's married to Tara, okay, beauty entrepreneur, and 3 powerful sons. How did you do it? 3 sons. What happened?
No, that's because it's what God gives. You can only give what you have. You can't give what you don't have. So I remember one time that Tara had asked me that, so after 3 boys, now do I not want to try for a girl? And I said to her, well, once is an occurrence, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. If I've given you 3 boys, it's because that's all I have. If I have girl, I would have given you. So
me, I have 4 girls.
But I'm telling you, and so you are lucky. Some of us, God did not distribute it like that. So for me, I've said that if I cannot be the best father to a girl, I'll be the best father-in-law to 3 girls.
Wow.
So that's my goal.
Wow. Our daughters are ready. They are prepping up. It's about $50 million for dowry. Just down payment first, in case you're thinking like that. Okay, we're ready to go. FD, we appreciate you for your humility and your consistency, and then your life has been a great encouragement to our generation and young folks a lot. So I want to start. How do you interpret this season? Okay, because when people go to hospital and they have wrong diagnosis, there'll be wrong prescription. Wrong prescription will lead to complications. So how do you interpret the lockdown, the COVID-19 season? Let's start from there. Over to you, sir.
Well, I think that nobody would doubt, sir, that this has been a tough period for many people. And I'm not just talking about people, it's individuals, it's families, it's organizations. Even as a nation, nations are reeling from the challenges that COVID has brought to us, the impact on our health, safety, the economy, the society itself is reeling, and you can see that pain being shown in many of those movements that are now being spun all over the place. So it's been a very tough time. People have lost loved ones, sadly. Some of them have lost income. Some of them have lost, they've lost hope, in many cases. So I think it's been a very tough time for people. However, I actually think, to me, that COVID is a junction on this road for the human race, and it's one of those times that, what happens when you're coming towards a junction and you have been speeding, you have to brake and come to a halt, sometimes to a halt, depending on whether it's a T-junction, and really this is like a T-junction in our lives, where you have to come to a halt and decide which way are we going to go. One thing is for sure, there is no going back. We are at a new time and a new season. This T-junction has forced us to reflect about what's important, about where should we have invested, what should we be doing, and I think that, for instance, it's become very clear, those who have been investing in the right things and those who have not been investing are seeing the outcomes at this time. It's like as if COVID came to shine the light on the strength and the weakness of all our, whether you call it structure, infrastructure, depending on how you want to put it. But look, at the national level, countries that have invested in their healthcare systems, their healthcare structure, their social structure, and social safety nets, you can see that are playing at work. Countries that have invested in building organizations and institutions and building their economy and having so much wealth to put by the side, having external results, you can see leaders that can think, that can adapt, that can work from home without having to be supervised, and all of those kind of things, that have invested in technology and the kind of infrastructure. You are seeing it at play now, right? Families that have taken time to invest in themselves, in time, in building their union. And now, for instance, when they said we know at least some of the numbers in the US, but they said
internet, what again? What is it? Hey. Oh, good Lord. Okay. There's a little breaking transmission there. Faladoto is on. We're not going back to what we had before. Sorry, there was a little break in transmission. Like, can you?
Yes, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So just saying that, so just basically saying that even families have to reflect, to say, the time when wives used to be able to run away from their husbands saying that they were going to work. Now everybody was caught up in the same house. The families that were strong, you could see they were able to be happy together. The ones that had unresolved issues, COVID brought it all out. And of course, as individuals, those who have reflected in developing themselves to have emotional strength, to have spiritual strength, to have physical strength and stamina. Again, COVID brought all of that out. So I think that the time COVID brought us to a place where we had to pause and think. And more importantly, to be able to review what way are we going to go? To now reinvent ourselves, knowing that we are not going back to where we used to be, and to have to reinvest. So I'm not just trying to play with words, but I think those three words are very important. COVID has given us the opportunity to review ourselves, review our strengths, our weaknesses, our markets, and depending on what it is and at what level you're thinking. But it's also the time for you to reinvent yourself. You've got to reinvent yourself, reinvent your brand to become relevant to the markets, to yourself, to your home, you know. And then lastly, you've got to reinvest, you know, as governments. It is time for you to invest in healthcare. It's time for you to invest in businesses that can help to build the economy. As organizations, it's time to invest in leadership. Invest in your people. And when I say leadership, I'm not talking about management, but invest in your people. Give them the sense of well-being and ownership. Invest in them. As families, it's time to invest in the relationships within our homes. You know, with husband and wife, invest time. You know, gone are the days when it was money that was buying everything. You have now realized that there comes a day when money can almost fail, when there's nothing to buy because you can't even go out to buy, you know, and time has become the most important thing. And then as individuals, it's time to invest in ourselves, to learn. It's time to invest in our connection and our spirituality with God, you know, to invest in our in keeping fit and keeping firm. You know, this is the time. So I think that's what COVID has done for me.
Wow. Thank you so much. I mean, I hope we have those words. I'm happy that we have it from the coach himself. Review. A lot of people have been reviewing and seeing some realities. Some families are enjoying it and some are not enjoying it at all because of the way things have been. Some businesses were able to navigate the digital waters. Some
even churches are having to reinvent. You know,
so
I mean,
review,
whether it's
reinvent,
and then reinvest, yes. Wow. And you know, today you see a lot of people are now having Wi-Fi in their homes, and they never made that investment before. Many people are now investing in devices for their children to be able to learn online. Some of them are even now having to invest in lights and lighting that makes their, you know, their Zoom meetings or their webinars, you know, and amazing. Learning how to do things in a new normal. You know,
okay. You've been a consultant for almost 30 years. That's a lot, because I'm 44 now, and that means when I was 13, you started consulting. You know, it's scary. Okay, can you please? What advice do you want to give business owners? There are a lot of young people that are either starting businesses or they work in places. What advice? Small, medium scale businesses going forward. Okay, I want to believe that people have been forced to review. Okay, I think many are trying to reinvent now. Okay, what counsel can you give people that have businesses, business owners? I mean, as a consultant, what can you say?
Well, I think that the one thing I'm telling, because a lot of CEOs now, I'm sitting down and we're having to look at their business continuity. Many of them are saying to me, Fela, it's honestly, I can't tell everybody else because I'm supposed to be the leader that is strong and the CEO that is giving hope to everybody, but I'm scared, you know, and I seem to have so much clutter in my brain, and I just need somebody who can help me clear the clutter so that we can see a clear pathway forward. And the one thing that I'm having to share in everything that we are dealing with is about how to adapt very quickly and very effectively. So if there's one thing that businesses will have to do, not only to survive, but to thrive, to become great in this time, if I'm sitting down talking to any business leader, whether they're the CEO or anybody else within the business, it's about adapting. You must be able to adapt and adapt very quickly. Look, we are in a time of change. Change has happened to us. I mean, we used to always say that leaders were the ones who had the ability to create desired change. But, sometimes what happens when it's no longer that you are even trying to create the change, but the change has come to you. And the question is, how do you now, with the change that comes, create desired results? So before it was create desired change, but now change has happened to you. It wasn't you that even created that. Now, how do you create desired results from the change? And it's about adapting. It's about adapting in every key area. Number one, you have to adapt to the customer's needs. Right?
Adapt to the customer's
needs. Yes, they talk. They say cash flow is the lifeblood of business, right? So this time around, you are going to have to ask yourself, who is buying?
Okay.
What are they buying?
Wow.
Where are they buying? And how are they buying? And you have to, in a way, flow with the cash.
Wow.
This gone are the days when you are going to be so loyal to your own products that what you're trying to do is force people to buy, because there is a low, what what you call disposable income has reduced. I mean, right now people are not able to have enough to spend, so they are spending on only what's important. So your question now is not about how to get the customer to buy what you're producing, is how do you produce what the customer wants to buy? And this is a very important adaptation, is you being there to study the customer, to listen to the customer rather than be trying to sell and tell the customer, but listen and hear what the customer is focused on, and you focus on that. The second thing I would like to say is you've got to be able to adapt your processes and your infrastructure to deliver on the things that are important to the customer. You know, one of the most incredible examples of this has been a lady by the name of Mrs. Nike Mulesi, right? Who, for instance, I mean, everybody knows her as the owner of Rough and Tumble, a children's clothing business. But throughout the COVID and the lockdown, who was buying clothes for their children? Very few people. But what she realized was we have invested in machines. We have thread, we have cotton, we have tailors, right? And so if you have machine, you have, you know, the inventory to produce, and then you have skills. How do we adapt that to what is important? What is important now? Face masks, you know, things like that, you know, protective gear. And that is what they did. They adapted very quickly. I'm going to challenge every business leader to say it's your ability to adapt. Lastly, you know, you've got to adapt in the way that not only you deal with the customers or deliver the value to the customers, but in the teams. You know, gone are the times when you're going to look at it and say, oh, you know, we need to have this big office because I am, you know, I'm an employer of 300 people, 400 people. You're going to have to be able to get, you know, adapt your team to deliver value in, let me say it in another way, to do more with less. Because this is not the time for you to be carrying excess luggage. You may need to shelve some people who are not adding value, who are not able to create value, and they're always causing problems for your organization. This is maybe the time for you to let go. But this is also the time for your people to learn what is critical. New skills will be learned. You know, if what we're doing is different from what we used to do, we have to learn how to do what we do now. So the most important thing is learning how to lead them and not just manage them. You know, when you manage, you're literally using people to accomplish goals. But now we are realizing those who are leading are building people who can accomplish goals. So processes, right? So that you can produce, and then adapt your teams. Adapt your teams is very important. Don't say that every JD job description is gone. No, what do we have to do now? And what must we learn now?
Why do you think people find it hard to adapt? What are the things that you've observed over the years with organizations or individuals that hinder people from adapting? What are the things? Yeah.
Well, I think there are a few, but I'll just talk about the few ones that are relevant. Number one is that a lot of people find it difficult to adapt because of the fact that they are invested in what they currently know. Yeah, so everything that they know today, they invested in it. So and when you tell people to adapt, you are telling them to leave what they already know to learn something that they don't many times. And so you are asking them to first and foremost forgo a lot of the investments that they have used to build experience. And experience can become an anchor that will not allow you to move very quickly. It's one of the greatest challenges we are facing, sir. CEOs are saying, but look, we built this great office, but now we can't even put people in it. And they can't even think, how do I go beyond that? I mean, so it's leaving the past behind for many times a future that they may not be certain of.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're not certain about the future, but most importantly, they may not be certain of how to get there. So those three things are the things that I think make it, difficult for people to adapt. Number one, to be able and be willing to leave where they are today. I mean, I know that Reverend Sam and several other people have, taught several times on this book, called "Who Moved My Cheese."
Who Moved My Cheese? Yes.
Yes.
It's a good book.
And it's talking about what happens when change happens to you and you still want to hold on to what you know, hold on to what you're used to. And I tell people the reason why people want to hold on to it is because they invested in it to get to that place. So now some people are realizing, what do I do? I mean, if my organization lets me go, and I've always known.
We lost your audio.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Can you hear?
I can hear you now, sir.
Yes. So if I've always been an employee, and that's what I know how to do, and now the times are changing, and I've lost my job, how do I adapt to become an entrepreneur? Everything I've makes it difficult sometimes. And then the second thing is clarity about where they're going. And then most importantly, the pathway to how do I get there? And what do I need to get there? Those things make it sometimes difficult for people.
To adapt. Wow, that's awesome. I hope we're learning a lot. I like this. We could have a book on adaptation here now. When you don't adapt, you fossilize. The reason why we don't have some particular animals today is because they could not adapt to the changing climate, changing
terrain. Went extinct.
Yeah, they went extinct. So if your business is go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and I was going to say sometimes experience can now be the worst teacher.
Yes.
Because experience is everything you knew that brought you to where you are. But expertise is everything you need to know to take you to where you're going. So now, all of a sudden, experience is having to give way to expertise. And some of the expertise that is required to go into the future, it is young people that don't have experience in the way we've been doing it in the past.
The way we think.
The way we think. They're the ones that are now the ones helping to chart the way to the future. And that is scary for people who have built years of experience, and all of a sudden everything they've known change has come to it. So I think that that is something. I'm going to say to everybody, please value expertise over experience. And if you have experience, be willing to adapt quickly, to learn quickly. If you learn quickly, you will gain new expertise. I mean, people are. When you want to know when something is a new normal, it's very simple. It's just that people will ask themselves, how come we have not been doing this before? Because it's cheaper, it's faster, it's everything. Yeah, and so it becomes impossible for them to go back.
Yeah, I said, how come we've not been doing this? We could have done this coaching every month like this, and people even pay and everything.
Emoji.
It's cheaper, it's easier. How come?
You know what it would have cost the church to host the big great conference? In the past,
you will drive to the church.
Protocol.
People.
We
buy one carton. We will buy snacks, and then people will stand, and then two big generators will be. And then we'll be doing traffic. People will be parking.
And you will be reaching fewer people. And you'll be reaching fewer people.
Oh yes.
All of a sudden now you're reaching everyone. Because a new normal has come. And that is how you know a new normal. Because you now say to yourself, does it make sense for us to go back to doing it the hard way? Easier way. So we got to adapt.
Okay.
We got to adapt.
Okay, the internet is glitching a bit. Okay, so we're grateful for those who have joined from all over the world. We appreciate you for joining. This is awesome. This is the book that FD just mentioned. I read it years ago.
Spencer Johnson's book.
I had to read it again. I hope you can see it clearly. Who Moved My Cheese? It's about change.
It's a book everybody should read now.
I think find it online, get the e-copy by Dr. Spencer Johnson. It's a very good book, okay, for this kind of season. People need to let go of their past and move on. And the new normal is even easier if you can adapt, okay? I love what Jesus said. He says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Sometimes the way you have been doing things before is even too tasking, it's too heavy, it's not productive enough. This is far better. We just need to enjoy the new wine as much.
Before, when people would, the number of CEOs I was able to meet sometimes could not be more than 1 or 2 a week, because we have to think of traveling sometimes, or we have to think of traffic. Then sometimes we would agree to meet in my own office or my home or their office, and you use one whole day to have a 2-hour meeting because it takes time to get there. Now, because we've adapted, I'm now having CEOs from across the world now connecting. Before, it was only Nigerians, and maybe when I travel, then some people will say, "Oh, please, fella, I would like to have a business meeting with you." But now it's so, career professionals.
Oh, yes.
Almost every day now, it's now just being structured to say you have 12 to 2, then the next thing is 3 to 5, then the next thing, and that's how they are, so it's really become something that is interesting,
Yeah.
We have to adapt.
Wow. I mean, that's a big take home today. Wow. That's $1 million information we've gotten about adaptation. A lot of people are just getting free. You
have to determine the future you desire, and then become the person that deserves that thing that you desire. I think that's the most important thing at a personal level. You have to desire, be deliberate about what do you want. In this new normal, who do you want to be? That's the whole purpose of reinventing. But most importantly, who must I become so that I can deserve what I want, the success that I want? And that's very important.
Okay, that's even good for the next chat or discussion. This is the Great Conference. This is born out of the fact that I believe people can rise out of the ashes of failure and mistakes and be the best that they can be, male or female, white or black or white. I believe that God has planted inside each one of us the seeds of greatness, and that the seeds ought to be nurtured and bless humanity. Okay, and I know I've seen you grow great, Sam. I've seen you over the years. Though you always look the same way. You don't look older. You don't look younger. You just look.
Only God, Jehovah.
The same way, and then I know, and you've met a lot of people too. You've seen people fall. You've seen people fail. And you've seen people sustain levels of greatness. I want you to take some time to talk about the top 3 things that you've observed that will help people achieve greatness. Top 3 things.
Okay. So first of all, I love how you started by saying, look, God designed every man for greatness. And I think that what has happened is that many of us have come into this life, and we've learned a false narrative of greatness, which is success, which measures how much I have been able to accomplish for myself, what I've been able to acquire, and all the things that I can't even take with me, when I go back to where I came from, right? And God didn't really design us purely for success in what we would do, but He designed us for greatness, so that we can leave behind something that will continue to live after we have left. I'm going to say that again. So that greatness is about how much you're able to leave behind after you have left. And there are 3 things that I find that are going to be very important. We'll deal with them very quickly. Number 1 is impact. If you're going to go beyond just living a life of success and going to the level of greatness, you must be able to impact people positively. Meaning that you must leave people better than the way they were before they met you. You must impact places positively. Meaning everywhere you go, you must leave it better than the way it was before you came. And most importantly, you must do things better, so that whether it's your job or whatever it is, you must make a positive impact on people, on places, and on things. It's very important. And as you do that, you begin to realize that as you impact more and more people, you're now going to have the right to influence them. Which is why they say that leaders have influence, because leaders make people better. Leaders make places better. Leaders make things better, right? And so as you do that, the people can trust you, and then they give you the right to influence them. And as your influence grows, it means now you can change the way that other people do things because of the way you do things. You can influence others, the way they think, the way they talk, the way they act, the way they behave, their culture. You can influence that. And in doing that, you will now be seen as great. People who they've never met before, influence beyond generation. But the real thing is that go and look at it. Every time you come in contact with them, they're better. The second thing is alignment with purpose. Look, it's possible for you to succeed at anything. And I talk about defective success, which is what happens when you climb a ladder to the top of a wall only to realize you're leaning on the wrong wall. When we were all created, we were created for a reason. And the ultimate measure of greatness is, did you succeed in what you were created to succeed at? It's not enough for you to just succeed. It's, did you succeed in the reason why you were created to succeed? And I think that that alignment, making sure that every day you are doing what you were created to do, is very important. And the third thing I would say is that giving your very best effort to what you are naturally good at. And because you are naturally wired for purpose, which means that if I work hard at something I'm not good at, the best I can become is successful at it. But when I work hard at something I'm already good at, then that thing, I go beyond success, I become great. So my point is this, you know, as you align with purpose, you will realize that you need to leverage your natural strengths, your talents, your personality, your gifts. And if you work hard on that, you will become great. So for me, it's impact,
alignment,
and most importantly, giving your best. Let me just touch one last thing very quickly before that my time runs out. You know, when I used to say that excellence is what is required for you to succeed.
Sorry, sir. Feel free to get into any details around here. Okay, this is
right,
1:47. We're supposed to finish by 2:30 thereabout. Okay. Do I still have one or two other questions? I'm going to throw.
No problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. I used to always say that if you work hard at something that you're not good at, you will become at best excellent at it. But when you work at something you're naturally good at, you will go beyond excellence and you'll go into the realm of what they call exceptional. And what has happened, Pastor Emi, is that technology has made excellence available, affordable, and common to all. There was a time when the cost of achieving excellence was so high with infrastructure that, you know, if you are not, do you understand? Let me give you an example. You know, look at news and journalism. There was a time when, for to be a journalist, right? You have to go to school of journalism. You have to go to so that you can find, because there were few newspaper houses and therefore few pages of newspapers to be printed every day. The editor was the almighty in choosing what will go into what page and whatever it is. As technology has come to change that, today everybody is a journalist in one way or the other. And I know the journalists may not really be happy with what I'm saying, but it's the reality, that everybody is now available, and now people are spreading news, whether it's real news, fake news, good news, bad news, whatever it is. But everybody has become. So my point is to be able to say that it's important that you don't just stay at the level of excellence. You have to rise beyond excellence and become exceptional. Listen, this is the point. Don't just be known for how good you are. Become great, the best at one thing. Become the best at something and let that thing be something you're already naturally good at. As a business, I was advising a business leader who is in the UK, and they have a chain of restaurants. And I said to them, look, of course now they have to, you have to do takeout, you have to leverage on technology. And I asked her a simple question. What is the one meal that you are better than anybody else in the United Kingdom in preparing? What is the one meal that will cause people to say they are coming to London, where the lady has her place, to come and eat that thing? I said, you can be good at every meal, but you must be great at one. You must be great at something. You must be better than good. You must be better than excellent at one thing. So that I think is one of the most important things that must happen.
Wow. We're enjoying this. This is beautiful. All men fail, but the great ones rise again. Can you talk to people, us that have failed? I mean, all men fail, but the great ones rise again. What can you say to people that have missed the mark, they are down, some are trying to stand up, and what process? Because in Africa we have this attitude where people fall, they want to quickly dust themselves and stand up and make it look like nothing happened, nothing happened. We don't learn from it. And then after a while, they fall again. But I feel there's a process that people can take to bounce back. And then even their failure can be part of the testimony. They'll be glad to share their story, and that will empower others. Everybody fails one way or the other. Maybe marriage failed, business failed, but I believe that people can bounce back. Can you speak to that this afternoon?
Oh, well, I think that I would say to people, failure is natural to humankind, as breathing is. As men are supposed to be able to breathe in and breathe out, so it is that we're supposed to be able to fall down and not pick something up whilst you're down. Failure is only a natural process for learning on the pathway to greatness. There is not one great person, not one, that almost did not fail. Sir, you know, something happened a few years ago when I was trying to understand when God said he made man in his image and likeness. So God designed man in Genesis 1:26, and in the design, the conceptualization of this guy we are trying to make, or this mankind, what must they be? He says, let us make man.
No.
And the purpose was so that man can have dominion. We don't have the time for that. Not take dominion, but have it. Have dominion means that he will do certain things and dominion will be handed over to him because of the things he does, which include be fruitful, multiply, and all of that. So those are the things man was supposed to do. And when man does those things, he will naturally have dominion. But the point that I wanted to make was that God said in the design, let us make man in our image and our likeness. So there was image, then there was likeness. But then you now go into the production phase of man. And that's in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 27. And God says, and so God made man in his own image. And then says, in his image made him man. Male and female made him. But he didn't say anything about likeness. So I thought, God, I don't understand. You said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. But when you are now going to make man, you only made man in our image. And God said, yes, because the responsibility to make man in his image is God's responsibility. But it is man's responsibility to be in the likeness of God.
Wow.
So it is God made me in his image, but it is now up to me to be like God. And when you ask, so what do I need to do? God said to me, the book is a manual to know how I operate so you can know how to operate. And God said to me, go back to the beginning. So I went to the beginning and said, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So he said, what's the first thing you have to understand? He says, yes, man must, if I'm going to operate in the likeness of God, I must be creative. So God did not complain about what was not there. He only created it. So man must never worry about what do I not have, what do I create. Okay. Number 2, this is the part that blew my mind, sir. God said, look at verse 2. He says, and the earth was void and empty, and darkness ruled over it. Man of God, do you think that was what God wanted the earth to be? No. That means the first thing that God did, technically speaking, did not work. It failed. Why did God? Yeah. And man of God, what trips me is that nobody was there when that thing failed. So why did God want us to see that what he didn't come out right? He said so that when you do stuff and it doesn't come out right, you don't think that's the end. It's only the beginning.
Wow. I like this. Wow.
So it didn't come out right. God did not complain. He didn't say, oh my God, look at me. I'm such a failure. How can I be God? And then I'll create the earth and it won't work. He just said, listen, I'm not going to use my time describing what does not work. I'm going to use my time talking about the solution. So if darkness was the problem, let there be light. So God was talking about the solution. So what do I want everybody who has ever failed? If you fail, just realize that you are only the image and likeness of God. So don't take it personal. Okay?
Wow.
It is natural. Number 2, learn to identify the problem so that you can create the solution. It is in your solution that your greatness lies. The problem may have been what led to your failure, but it's the solution that will lead to your greatness. So yes, understand the problem, but more importantly, think about it. Think about the solution. Review it. Reinvent that solution. Adapt to change whatever you need to change. And to change, I want everybody to hear this. To change, you only need to do 4 things. Number 1, start something that you were not doing before. Number 2, stop something that you were doing before that led to this problem. Number 3, do something that is working for you, but you need to do more of it. And then number 4, you may need to do some things less, even if you can't stop it. So it's those things. To change, you are going to need to start, stop, more or less. Everything that you want in life is waiting for you to start something that you are not doing, to stop something you're doing that is not helping, to do more of something that is working, and to do less of something to manage it and control it. And I want you to please understand that the journey to greatness will be filled with many starts and stops and falls and cries and tears. And please understand, those things are normal. God says, they that sow in tears shall doubtless come back rejoicing. Many times you will sow failure with tears, but you will reap greatness with rejoicing. It is, I'm telling you, don't be scared to fail. Everybody has failed, everyone,
Wow.
But as long as you're willing to learn, you will get to where you're going.
Wow, this is awesome. So, okay, so when we say these are showing tears, because most Pentecostals or charismatics that are listening, we've always talked about it in the realm of maybe giving and giving. But I like the fact that the tears can be in failure. You put in a lot of effort to something.
Every failure required an investment. You gave up something and it didn't come out the way you wanted it to.
Wow.
So you sold, but there was nothing that came out of it.
See, one of my major learning points in this session is the fact that people don't adapt because of experience most of the time. The experience, all the investments in some kind of education, some kind of infrastructure, they pride in it. Is that correct? they revel in it.
Yes.
Looks like that is it. And then something comes that would have them drop those things.
Yes. I mean, practical example for what you're saying. I always say to people, a lot of people study courses that JAMB gave them. And then want to define their future by something that they don't have any passion for, no talent in, that is not them by their nature. And so what happens is that they now want to build their identity around their certificate. And so there are many people who are calling themselves lawyers because they studied law. Meanwhile, that was not what God created them for.
There is no wig in their system.
There's no. There are many people who are working in a bank and they are not bankers. My point is this. For instance, I studied computer science with economics. And the only thing I knew by the time I graduated, by the grace of God, was that I don't want to ever have anything to do with programming. And I say to people, don't let your background keep your back on the ground. Don't let it happen. If you have to let go to find who am I, who did God create me to be, please do so. Don't keep yourself in the past. Release yourself so that you can go into the future.
Thank you. I hope you are all hearing now. He did not do business consulting in school. He did computer science, and now see what he's doing. I did urban and regional planning.
So you are planning the lives of people.
Urban and regional planning. When I was to get into school, offered soil science. Who did I offend? Who did I offend? Soil science, where will I start from? Soil science, where will I be working? So, and I know a lot of people that are trying to adapt their life by force to what they did in school. You did engineering in school. There might not be any metal in your system or any engineering in your system. You might just be, you might be a consultant or something else. So people need to face that now. And businesses too. Some things you used to do before just ended with COVID-19. And you have to rethink the way you do the business and start all over again.
Absolutely.
Families, we need to do that. Individuals, we need to do that. Churches, we have to do that. You know, nations, we have to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Does our nation still have hope? I've always seen you give us hope. Hope. You are hope personified. Do we still have hope in Nigeria? I mean, citizens of the country just want to be encouraged. Maybe they are concerned about this, about that. Do we still have hope in Nigeria, sir?
Oh, well, I would always say that as long as there is life, there is hope.
As you are seeing me so, I'm almost in Canada, if not.
And I understand. I can't. I have to be honest with you. No, I understand, man. I do. And there are many people. And sometimes it's that, you know, I can't tell you that sometimes you don't sit down and think about it. But when you realize that we were not born just for us to live in comfort, but that we were born to bring comfort to the earth, to make the earth a better place. And that God was very deliberate about where he placed you. For instance, if you look in the scriptures, I always talk about how in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 15, God talked about why he placed man in the garden. And the Bible says, and so in Genesis 2 and 15, it says, and so God placed the man whom he had formed in the garden, and he said it was to tend the garden and to keep the garden. Other versions of it said to guard it and to keep it in order. Other ones said to dress it. And everything that man was created for and put in the garden for was never about man. It was about the garden. So when God was going to look at, and for me, I think that the deal that God made with man was very simple. He made a deal with the garden and told the garden, you know, as long as man dresses you, please dress him.
Ooh.
As long as man keeps
dresses
him.
The garden, yeah. If he
as long as
garden,
man works you, give him work to do. But if man violates the garden and the rules of the garden, then everything that God had given as a reward literally was taken off. Wow. And that was exactly what happened. The moment man violated the rule of the garden, become naked. Now, I know some people say, oh no, it was about the glory of, it's okay. The most important thing is that, please understand, when God placed you in Nigeria, he knew what was going to be happening in Nigeria for such a time as this. And God gave you unique set of skills that you have to bring to solve problems that will make Nigeria better. And in doing that, you will have great success. Right? So if you are listening and you're a Ghanaian, God created you for such a time as this to make the Ghana that God had in his mind. It is called the hope of his calling. God had a hope before he called you, and he had a hope of what you will do when you get here. That hope must become your vision. You must be able to say, God, what did you see me do? What did you see? It was done before I came here. What did you see me do? It's not about you putting your hand to anything and saying, let me keep body and soul together. Your soul will never go where your purpose is not established. So every time you go to work to keep body and soul together and your purpose is not being fulfilled in that place, you are actually tearing body and soul apart, because your body will go to the office, but your soul will stay at home. You've got to have what it takes to add value for such a time as this. There is no problem that God will allow to a generation if that generation could not solve it. COVID came for this time because our generation can solve the problem.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah? Yes. Every challenge that you see, and Nigeria is undoubtedly, so blessed, in mineral resources, probably more than any nation, in natural resources, more than any nation, in human resources. The world is looking for an alternative to China. I'm telling you, that's the honest truth. We've got everything. If we can only build the right infrastructure, build the right leadership, get people to be able to invest in get investment in business, so that, business people are very special people. One of the things I always advise government, a local government, somebody comes and says, please, Fela, is there anything you can tell us? And I always say to them, listen, go and look at the history of development of all the great nations in the world. It was entrepreneurs that helped them to get where they were going. The Wright brothers were not from Ministry of Aviation. Henry Ford was not from Ministry of Transportation. Right? Vanderbilt was not from Ministry of Railway and Commerce or Railway. Yeah. These entrepreneurs have two things that make them very special. They know how to solve problems and they know how to create wealth. And in solving problems, they improve their society and they have social development. But in creating wealth, they improve their economy and they have economic and national development. If you invest in supporting businesses and entrepreneurs who can solve problems and create wealth, then we would have employment generation. It will be natural, it will be sustainable. Then we will have progress and we will have prosperity. And I think that those are the most important things. But you've got to support businesses, give them infrastructure, give them funding, give them loans. Right now, there's a lot of palliatives that are going around. And yet, the businesses that have been paying tax the most are the ones that are suffering and they're not getting enough support. We need support for businesses more than ever. When you support businesses, then you will support the people. The business all over the world, that's what they're doing. Germany, go and look at the kind of things Germany was given, probably I think about 10,000 euros, 100,000 euros for some businesses, depending on the number of staff you have, just so that you will not go out of business. In Canada, if it says, I know somebody who has a bakery. In fact, two people who have bakeries in Canada. Both of them received 4,000 Canadian dollars. Support businesses. That's what great countries do, and that's what keeps them sustainable. The Business Leadership Network, which is now becoming very quickly the fastest growing business network in Africa. We now have 1,600 businesses on our network. And we're creating that Business Leaders Network to have this one-stop center where business people can find everything they need, whether it is, talent, and, we have something called the Career Professionals Network, whether it is coaches or consultants. We have the Professional Services Network. You can access lawyers, you can access tax consultants, HR, whether it is trainers that can train your people. We have the Corporate Trainers Network. Whether it is angel investors, we have something called the Angel Investors Network. All of these things are around the Business Leaders Network. And so for me, I think that anyone who would like to, and you're either, aspiring, or you're emerging, or you've established your business, we've created the one thing that will help all business leaders and the people that work with them to create businesses that are solid. That's what we're doing.
How can people get to that network? People are asking how they can get to that network, because people are also asking how they can transit from paid employment to businesses like that. So I feel connecting to that network would help a lot. Our time is gone. We have only like 3-4 minutes. We're supposed to be off by.
Okay, so let me.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the name of
so
that
I think that let me say that what you need to do is to do gemstoneng.net/business leaders.
Okay.
www.gemstoneng.net/business leaders. Right? And or if you send info@gemstoneng.net, you would also be able to be connected. And for anybody who would like for me to spend more time in advising them, please send me an email at coach@feladurotoye.net.
Okay.
If somebody can type it out for me, I'll
They'll
be
do that.
honored
Coach
to help.
@feladrotoye.net.
Yeah, whether you're in your career, you're trying to transition, you're in business, you're trying to grow, coach at feladrotoye.net. Please send me an email and then we'll take this from you.
Just one thing before you leave. What has helped you and Tara? I like when I see couples, doing well, not just spiritually, but also business-wise. Can you mention one thing, one ingredient that has
talked about this thing when we went for our walk today. Tara and I both came from, broken homes. And we said to ourselves, when we met each other and decided that we were going to get married, we said, no matter what happens, we must make sure that our marriage will succeed. So our commitment to that success is what has made it so interesting. Let me just quickly give you this last story. My mom called us on the week that we were going to get married. My mom called Tara and I together, and she said to me and Tara, she said, whatever you do, make sure you turn every door in your home into a wall. And I was looking at her like, how will we be able to go out? She said, that's exactly what I mean. Make sure in your mind, you are not thinking that if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Make sure you work it out so you don't have to walk out of it. I'm going to say that again. It says, make sure you work it out so that you don't have to walk out of it. And so I said to her, so how do we do this? She said, well, your home is different from your house. Houses are built with cement, sand, and water, but your home is built with love, peace, and joy. She said, once you have decided you are going to stay in this forever, then your decisions, your words, and your actions will determine whether you are going to be in eternal hell or eternal bliss. You have to choose to be in eternal bliss. And that's what Tara and I have done. We are just committed to say this thing has to work. We have problems like everybody else. But rather than walk out, we work it out. And we are very intentional about it. Thank you very much. That's what I think.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Man of God, thank you for having me. Everybody must remember nations, great nations are built on great family units and weakened by divorce. So please know that as you build your family into a dynasty and pass values to your children, please remember that you are not only going to build your children, but you must build the nation that your children will walk in. So for me, be great, be great, be great.
Hallelujah.
God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining. We'll see. We'll do this again and again, somewhere. Thank you, sir. Help us. And greetings to the church in your home, Tara, and the hefty sons that God has blessed you. Bye for now, sir.
God bless you.
Wow. Okay. It was awesome time. Let me see how we do that. Okay. Wow. Okay. It's been great. I hope you're enjoying yourself. We have people joining from Abakaliki, from Festac, from Russia, from Oworonshoki, from Akure, from United Kingdom, from Ile-Ife. Oh, wow. Akwa Ibom. Thank you for joining. Australia, Ontario, Canada. Thank you for joining. God bless you. By 2:30, is it 2:30? Is it 2:30? By 2:30, we are going to Nollywood. You understand that? Want to hear a lot about stories of greatness, how people are imagined, especially young folks, how they imagine. Join us by 2:30 as we run to Nollywood. Okay, 2:30 p.m. as we run to Nollywood. God will help us today. Find time to take some water, stretch your legs. See you by 2:30, and please, you can invite other people on to be a part of this at Yemi Davids. Okay, you can follow at Yemi Davids. Tell them at Yemi Davids they can be part of this. For those joining in from Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, God bless you. See you at 2:30. We are going to Nollywood. All the videos we made available after the event, so you won't miss much. Okay, all the videos we made available after the event.